Hello everybody, welcome to another watercolor tutorial. I'm very excited for this painting because I've always wanted to know how to paint this kind of super easy cat, and this picture popped up and I clicked on it and it was a tutorial and it ended up being by Olsen art. So that is where I got the inspiration behind this. I'm very excited about this. It's very cute, very easy, so let's just get right into it. I have my watercolor piece of paper. Any size will do. I just have a square piece here. And we're gonna start by covering the entire thing, or almost the entire thing, with a layer of water, and I'm just using a mop brush here. Now, the reason why I said almost the entire thing is because no, never mind. I'm just going to do the whole thing. Because oftentimes when I do the whole thing without taping the borders, the water comes back from underneath the painting and creates like this cauliflower effect on the sides, but we're not going all the way, like our pigment is not going to reach all the way to the end, so I'm not too worried. You do want to make sure that your water is evenly spread out. There's no pooling, there's no bare spots. So just go over it a few times until you're comfortable with it. Then I'm grabbing my size 14 by Grumbacher. I'm taking some black watercolor. I have a little bit of brown mixed in there, but it doesn't matter, just any dark color. And you can kind of paint a pear shape on the piece of paper, right in the middle. Sort of like this. Now, I don't really like what happened here, so I am just gonna, this is gonna be a very fat cat. Like so. Now, this is why it's super important that your water is very evenly spread out. Otherwise, if you have more water in some places, it's gonna spread out unevenly, like it did here, which is quite unfortunate. So this also works best with the cotton paper. But anyway, once you have your pear shape down here, we're gonna try and paint on the head as well. The thing is, the watercolor has kind of spread out to where I wanted to paint the head, but I mean, there's nothing I can do about that now. I'm gonna paint a little half moon shape, I suppose, just here. And I'm going to paint on the head. Like so. We can later adjust this, and you can also paint on the tail. So you just want to make sure that you're doing this while it's still wet, your background. Because if it's wet, it'll create this really fuzzy appearance, because the watercolor will sort of bleed out like so. So we've already got the rough shape of our cat here. I do want to make the body of mine a little bit darker, so I'm gonna grab some more black that hasn't been quite as watered down, and I am going to apply it to the body. And you can see that it's already quite a bit drier than it was when we first applied it, because it's not exploding in color. So I like that a little bit better with the darker colors there. I find myself doing a lot of what Emily did in her video, like making a lot of corrections, so my face got a little bit too fuzzy on this side. So I dipped my paintbrush into water, cleaned it off on a paper towel, and I'm lifting off some of that pigment on this side here. So we're gonna let this completely dry before we move on to the next step. So we've got ourselves a very overweight cat here, but we'll work with it. We can start adding some of the features that are going to make it look a lot more feline. So one thing I want to do is add the ears. So you're going to have a little bit of overlap with the ears. We kind of start a little bit down below where the fur starts. So I'll zoom in a little bit, start here, and then it'll come down. And not go quite as low as that, because we do want to make it look like the cat's head is turned and facing at an angle. And then we'll have the other ear on this side. Mine is a little too thin on this side, so I'm just gonna make it a bit bigger. I'm also going to add a little line down below here so we have a slightly more defined head from body, since our cat has some weight issues. And we also want to define the eyes and the little nose and the mouth. So I'm going to start with the nose. It's sort of an upside down triangle that with two curved lines coming down. And then the eyes. Sort of almond-shaped eyes. I'm not fully filling them in, I'm leaving some white specks to make it look a little bit more realistic. And you can always go back and darken it a little more. I do want to make a couple of adjustments here around this neck area. I'm going to add a little bit of pigment. I should have made the head a little bit darker now that I'm looking at it, but that's all hindsight. used my fingers there because the paintbrush had too much pigment on it, and that actually kind of seemed to work to pick up some of that extra pigment that wasn't looking too good on the other side. And I might do that with this stripe there as well. So I am going to switch to my quadruple zero here, and I'm going to go over some of my features with a finer detailed brush and darker pigment. So again, I'm just going over the nose, the eyes, the mouth area. We have to add whiskers, of course. So it's really adding those final features on the face that make it look a little bit more like a cat. I think the biggest mistake I made here, why this doesn't look as nice as I wanted it to, this was my first attempt, mind you, was that I didn't make the face darker to match the darkness of the body. Like when I went in and I added more pigment in the body, I should have done the same thing for the head. And so now you could see me just trying to fix, like touch up some of these areas by blending the ears a little bit better towards to match the pigment of the head, so that it's not such a contrast. And I'm just doing that by adding some water and rubbing it against the piece of paper, obviously. And with the aid of my finger, or even just a clean paintbrush, you can really adjust that and make it look a little bit better. So I think that is all that we can do for this guy. This is a very overweight cat that needs to stop eating. I think next time, to not make it so big, you can wait for your paper to dry just like for a minute or two if you're using cotton paper, because it really holds that water and absorbs that water. And then if you wait a little bit, it won't spread out as much. Alternatively, you can just draw a smaller pear shape to begin with, and then it'll spread out, but because your shape was smaller, it won't create this balloon of a shape. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, please subscribe, hit the like button on this video, and I will see you in the next tutorial.